Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Did a lot less content last week than I wanted to, just had a hard time getting into the rhythm of things. I tried some videos, recorded them some nights, didn't like them, and just kind of tossed them, so last week ended up not being as busy as I had planned. This week, I'm working on a few things the same day I'm recording this, so there should be a handful of things. Plus, I'll probably do an easy patch 7.16 patch note reading. So, you know, this, that. I am doing State of the Realm this week, and a couple other things. So probably looking at like 4 or 5 videos. I'm working through Tales of Grace's F now, which might make that the Sunday video, because I've been trying to put my game reviews of like other RPGs on Sundays and making that somewhat consistent. If I can get through Dynasty Warriors, I'd like to do one on that too. And then there was another like 1 or 2 I was considering doing. Games I played recently but didn't actually talk about or like share my thoughts on them. So yeah, we're probably looking at Sundays for that whenever I do have something that I want to share. But other than that, last week's video was pretty long. I don't know how long this one is, so I think we should probably get started. There is going to be another Magic Spoon ad for this video. Somebody commented, I already scrolled through to see how many questions there were, and there's a lot of like wall of text questions I've already seen. I was like, all right, I'll save those and see how they actually are when we start. But there's a lot of like long questions in this one. But somebody said that the Magic Spoon thing didn't work because there was no white background. And, you know, I hadn't even noticed that. They just give me the QR code and I just go, okay, plop it in. I never had to think about it. So the fact that there was no white background didn't occur to me. So I will remember to put my own little white box behind it this time in order to make it properly scannable. But there will be another Magic Spoon ad for this video, probably one more this week, and then that'll be it for this month, and then we'll do a few more of them next month, as we have been doing. So thanks to them for sponsoring. All my other links in the description of the video as they normally are. Don't forget to ask your questions for next week in the comment section, trying to remember to say that at the beginning of the videos as well. And thanks to the sponsors on Patreon as well for supporting. Completely optional, but I appreciate all y'all who do support over there or just by watching and contributing every week. So with that, let's play the Magic Spoon ad and then get on to the first question. Before the video kicks off, though, we do have a sponsor, Magic Spoon. Yep, new year, but Magic Spoon isn't going anywhere. I always say that I'm excited to get a better variety of protein options in my day just to shake things up, and Magic Spoon's delivered with cereal and treat bars. But this month, they sent me a new product on top of that, granola. I was so pumped for it, I may have eaten one of the bags before recording this. Oops. Either way, between that, the treat bars, and the cereal, I'm swimming in options now, and they all taste awesome. For the granola, I don't know if I like peanut butter or honey almond better. It's a tough choice, but they're both pretty good. So if you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box products with tons of available flavors to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store if you prefer, or even on Amazon. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring yet another video, and now on to said video. And by first question, I mean first 4 questions. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey Haps, hi, how's it going? It's going all right. It was a little bit slower of a week, but still fine. So I had a bunch of random tank questions, because why not? Okay, 1, do you have any hints what the next tank job will be? No. 2, I guess the 2-minute meta is here to stay. It's the time for the tanks to get a 2-minute party buff. No. We don't need any more party buff stacking on top of each other. It's already created a really toxic environment for the game, especially in fight balancing. 3, is it perhaps time to remove tank involves from Extreme Savage, Ultimate, and Future Chaotic? Why wouldn't you just remove them from the job altogether? Why even leave them in the game if you're going to remove them from all of the most, the content that technically makes the best use out of them? Just as like a casual crutch? No, it just doesn't, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to get rid of them altogether. Don't just cherry pick where they work and where they don't work. 4, and why not give all tanks a raise skill? No, we already have too much job homogenization. If you give everybody a raise, you're effectively just going even further down the road of job homogenization, and we really don't need that either. All right, here's our first wall of text. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, hello, and well met. Hi. I hope it's another happy Monday. I hope so too. I'll probably be playing Tales of Grace's F on it, so hopefully it's a good time. I'm on chapter 6 right now. Recently been leveling Bard. I'm still low level, but now that I've gotten the Wanderer's Minuet, I'm starting to vibe with the job a bit more. Just a few simple Excuse me. Questions. One, so I got battle voice, honestly, is the least interesting button in my toolkit. All buffs are the least interesting. Like, there are some buffs that are interesting in this game. Most of them are just you press them and that's them. They, you know, they'll do what they do. At the same time, I main Scholar and love using Chain Stratagem. Even before it got Baneful Impaction as a follow-up, they're practically the same button other than they increase different stats. Can you think of any job actions that function in similar ways but prefer using on one job over the other? No. I think every job buff that just increases stuff, like other than the number itself being big, like that's all that really matters. But the button itself isn't interesting. Like the only buffs that are somewhat interesting are like Monk's Brotherhood, because it gives them their Forbidden Chakra stacks. Anything that actually creates an interaction, and not just a follow-up skill, I mean creates an interaction. Like Life of the Dragon is another like buff that is pretty good, although that's almost more like a temporary stance and less of like a buff. It's a technicality. It's basically the same thing. But no, I think most buffs that just increase stuff are individually not very interesting. See, what I like about Battle Voice, though, is that 4 of the 8 jobs in any given raid have no innate direct hit as part of their job. They have to meld it in order to get it. So increasing their direct hit rate, for me, I like to imagine is more exciting for them. It also increases the odds of everyone getting crit direct hits on their biggest skills, which I think is also a huge, huge dopamine hit. So I do actually quite enjoy Battle Voice for that reason, but it's not like I actually pay attention to it or care about it. It's just a button that I press every 2 minutes. 2, I don't know how familiar you are with Bard and PvP. Not at all with the update. I've barely looked at anything PvP update wise. Interaction between powerful shot and harmonic shot. Yeah, see, that's a problem. I haven't done anything with this current season in PvP, so I literally can't even comment. I haven't looked at it, so I just don't know anything. I didn't realize each song had their own gameplay loop via repertoire. I think it's pretty cool, but I rarely hear people talk about it because it's not really that interesting of a gameplay loop. You're either pressing pitch perfect on 3 stacks, you're making sure you don't overcap blood letters, or you're just shooting faster. Like, it's nice. It's nice that, you know, in essence, there are effectively 3 different tools, but they're not... How do I put this? They aren't that interesting, you know? Like, the buff that they provide to the party, each individually, is negligible. And the effects that they individually have are not, like... They're not that... Honestly, Ballad's probably the most fun one, if I'm being completely honest. But even then, I'm not gonna, you know, sing their praises, I suppose. That was a pun. It wasn't on purpose at first, but I realized it very quickly. Oh my goodness. Sorry, another wall text. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Mrhappy. Hi. I swear I never say hey normally. It was just my usual 14 duty enter greeting now. Hey, at least you're consistent. Speaking of Guild Wars 2, I decided to go back into it as late last year, having stopped during the Icebrood Saga Living World content. Got back into it. Definitely struck me as how sterile 14's open world maps feel. Part of it is the way 14 does flight, allowing you to ignore the zone after you complete it in the story. But other elements compared to Guild Wars 2 definitely add to the disconnect. For one, the way player scaling works compared to overworld mobs, there's simply never any enemy that can pose a threat. All mobs are approximately equally as non-threatening unless you decide to pull 5 or 6 at once, even if it's DPS. Yeah, no, that's 5 or 6 as a DPS is never going to threaten me. Guild Wars 2, I have vivid memories of pocket raptors murdering people in early... a lot of things murdered people early in Heart of Thorns, because you could, like, change into an instance that's, like, super over, like, spawned. Like, there's way too many mobs spawned, and they just gang you. That's it. They just gang up on you, and that's it. It's just like, you picked the wrong instance to try to walk through. Yeah, it's... That's pretty brutal. Second, the fact that you may have to sink down for fates in all but final 2 zones of the most recent expansion means they may as well just not exist anywhere else if you want to farm them. Guild Wars 2, the fact that you're constantly synced to the zones level means you're always eligible to participate in events. Can be pinged by the mobs that spawn it. It isn't much, but I felt far more incentive to actually participate in Guild Wars 2 events in the old zones on 14. That's because most of Guild Wars 2's economy, again, I'm going to speak from memory. Most of their gameplay economy came from effectively rotating through the open world zones. Like, the actual dungeons that they initially created back in the day, they themselves effectively made pointless. Then they made Fractures, which have their own problems. Fractures? Is that right? Yeah, Fractures. I think I talked about that last week with the Agony Resistance. Like, that being its own instance, but also effectively being its own gear progression. Makes it so it kind of barely ties together with the overworld loop, so you're effectively picking one of the 2 loops and progressing, like, either your overall character or progressing that. And again, back in the day, I'm not going to speak on modern Guild Wars, remember, back in the day, Guild Wars 2 effectively had no gear progression. It was a bunch of different side pieces that all did nearly identical things except for the legendaries, which were then you better really buckle down and get ready to grind, because it's going to be quite some time of going through all the activities in the game. Not unlike like a Final Fantasy XI relic weapon. And then I know that Heart of Thorns added its own, grind with the exploration. Like, a lot of your power is effectively locked behind getting those extra skill points and exploring. And that was fun at first, but I very much disliked it within no time at all. But yeah, and I don't know what the state of raids are, but I remember them having a really hard time integrating raids into the way they wanted to do gear. They effectively, from the beginning, from the onset, built their game in such a way that the only thing that mattered was the open world, or PvP itself. And it felt like every attempt to do anything but that was less successful, which is really unfortunate. Some of that I feel like has to do with the gameplay systems. I think if I'm going to label something that's like secondary to it, I really do think I would probably have labeled Fractures. But again, I don't know what else they've done in recent times. I remember Death and Taxes getting early access to the Heart of Thorns raid, world firsting it, shitting on everybody else for not beating it before them, and then subsequently getting banned from participating in beta tests going forward. I think that was the last thing Death and Taxes ever did in any game as a guild, was get banned from like testing raids for Guild Wars. Yeah, so that's like, it's like the reverse problem, where it felt like everything they did that wasn't open world effectively got nullified. And that's not too dissimilar from like classic WoW. Like let me be careful here. Classic WoW does, of course, have its dungeons and its raids, and they're all part of the progression. They're all very threatening. But a lot of classic WoW's most notable features come from how dangerous the open world is. It's good for some people, it's not good for others. It can be really tedious and annoying. There's all sorts of mechanics in WoW's open world, the hyper spawning being the biggest one, that are absolutely ass and should not exist, in my opinion. But different strokes for different folks. I don't think, given what 14's goals are, it's reasonable to expect changes from how they currently do open world zones that manifest and start out differently the game. I just realized there was no question in this. I just realized I got tagged. There was not, look, I'll scroll through. There's not a single question in here. I mean, it got me discussing it again, but it's effectively kind of a repeat of what I said last week. If there's no question, there's not even like a thoughts question mark at the end of it. So, I read it though. So there you go. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hello. Hi. A question about the content release schedule in 14. Having 5 types of raids released in the first 6 months of the expansion seems weird, coming from someone who enjoys raiding. 5 types of raids. So I'm going to guess you're including extremes? Well, hold on. I guess I should just let's normal raid, savage raid, chaotic raid, ultimate raid, and alliance raid. There. Okay. So you were not including extremes, because then you also have unreal and extremes. And yeah, so I hadn't really thought about it. It's like, yeah, with normal and savage, it does make 5. Coming from someone who enjoys raiding, why reveal content that's a year or more away after the expansion release so early? They effectively advertise the plans for the expansion and not what will be on release. And it's something I've criticized a lot. I've mentioned how some of the major features they need to get out earlier. So I'm with you on that. And I think a lot of other people are too. They're tired of being told about something they won't see until about a year after the expansion itself actually comes out. It's funny because we didn't know about chaotic. Chaotic came as a huge surprise, but it's like, I mean, I think they mentioned they wanted to do a harder alliance raid, like at some point, but there was never an inclination or an advertisement that it was an incoming feature, but it released before the things that they were advertising. So it's even stranger in that sense. So I don't have an answer as to why. It's just what they've done, and I agree it's something that they need to stop doing, or they need to do better of getting that stuff out within the first 6 months and focus less on the stuff like chaotic until later down the line after they've gotten those initial promises out. Blizzard releases their expansion for a while with all the content advertised in the first month. Yeah, they effectively like say, hey, we're doing all this stuff, and then they do it, and then see, it's like a different problem. Weirdly enough, WoW's content cycle largely depends on how much you actually care about stuff like Mop Remix or Classic Hardcore or Season of Discovery, because they effectively dump most of their expansion features that they promised right away. But the questions then become the longevity of it, because most people seem to kind of lose interest once realistically, it's just down to Mythic and, well, both versions of Mythic. But it's down to Mythic rating and then just Mythic plus dungeons. I don't see anyone talking about the other features. I mean, people look forward to stuff like Plunder Storm or again, those like fresh servers or whatnot. So it's kind of like a weird thing where WoW almost front loads everything, and they have a pretty decent release schedule after that. But I think the big difference is that WoW doesn't usually do a lot of lifestyle stuff. They have similar to 14, they have a mix of stuff that makes interacting with the world at least temporarily more interesting, but doesn't necessarily get people to subscribe. Like dragon riding is cool, but is somebody going to be like, oh, I'm going to stay subscribed for dragon riding? No. They stay subscribed because you create things that they actively want to engage with on the daily. Dragon riding just makes doing things like your world quests or going around and just like doing your actual leveling makes that experience a little more fun. But if it doesn't keep someone subscribing, it's like, how important is that compared to creating something that promotes longevity? And I'm not saying 14's doing that right now. I think that's the problem with Dawn Trail, and what was also the problem with Endwalker is that they are not focusing on content that creates longevity early enough on for 14. Like they do it eventually, but it's just it's too far down the line. And WoW often relies on the fact that effectively Mythic Plus is kind of like their big, you're probably going to keep playing for this, or they do updates to their other versions of the game that are included in your sub. So it's like, wow, it's such a different dynamic between the two, because you're absolutely right, but the way that WoW's like what they're releases does not promote longevity outside of expansions where you get fucked with loot. Like still just like, oh, I didn't get these like basic loot pieces week after week after week. And to be frank, I don't know how that's going right now. I think that's called war bands, makes sharing stuff between characters a lot easier, if I'm recalling correctly. But I also know there are people who, even with war bands and multiple characters, just don't get the pieces that they need and hate themselves. I don't know, dude. The games are so dynamically different. But to stick to the point with 14, the thing I do know about, no, most people agree with you that they need to stop doing that. So that's, yeah, we're on the same page. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Happy. Hi. Based on the question about world content, I think adding duels a la Bozia would be a great way to breathe life into the Fate system and give a familiar yet tantalizing goal for players to return to older zones. So here's the thing. Returning to older zones is only, when we say add duels, effectively, they would only be adding duels to the current expansion. They wouldn't be going back and doing it to the old one. So, like, they wouldn't go like, oh, let's add a level 100 duel to Central Thanalan. Like, that wouldn't happen. They would stick to Dawn Trail zones if they were going to add one. They've done eventually, those who want to, and the actions are only off limits. Possible mechanics could be a good way to drum up a bit more life in areas and make the Fate grind as a whole less mind. So here's the thing. The number one thing I've learned about duels from Bozia is that people who do duels are on a pedestal. What I mean by that is, more often than not, people do not actually want to do the duels. There's only a handful of people that actively want to do it. And then sometimes there are people who are like, they haven't done it and they kind of want to give it a shot, but either they don't fully understand the action system, or they don't know the fight, or they really don't care. They just wanted to hit accept and see what happened. Like there's a mix of a handful of things that happens, but more often than not, duels are not for a lot of people. They are kind of like solo extreme content, and a lot of people do not feel comfortable putting themselves on a stage like that. So like my personal wish is that we had duels in zones. I think it would be cool to be able to like go to somebody and like, it's similar to Bozia. Like let's say somebody does complete the duel. It gives everyone around you a bicolor gemstone buff, you know, for an hour. That's fine. That's good. That's good as long as bicolor gemstones are valuable and people have a reason to want to be out there doing it. And as long as people are okay putting themselves on the pedestal. Again, the problem is that this doesn't really conquer the problem of creating open world content for everyone. It creates it for people like me. And I think that's a problem when we already have a lot of content, especially in Dawn Trail thus far, that is specifically targeted towards people like me. So that's like the only real concern with it. I mean, there is a concern with bicolor gemstones need to constantly be in demand. More so than just for the mount tokens, I think. I think their general use needs to be improved outside of just those one-off big expensive items. But that's, you know, they effectively need to add more crafting materials to it regularly, so people feel like they have to go out and do that kind of stuff if they want to just not have to spend a ton of gil. Make them level sync to the area and tough to compete without potions. And like, I mean, yeah, they can do that. Eye drops and stuff, like they could. But again, you're only speaking for people like me, and I don't think that's the problem right now. The problem is that there needs to be more content that a lot of people can participate in, and that is engaging or interesting to more than just my demographic. So that's the concern, is that you want open world content that gets your core audience engaging with the open world more. And I don't think duels are the answer to that. Duels are just something that I want. Like, a new player isn't going to organically learn their job doing a duel, because either they're not going to do it or they're just going to die. Like, that's it. Like, I've watched enough Bozia duels to understand that that is the dichotomy. You never have you almost never have something that's in between that. So it doesn't really create a better open world environment. It just creates a more interesting one for, again, people like me. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Well met, Mr. Happy. What's one of your biggest pet peeves? Being asked the same question repeatedly. Like, what's a good example? Like, okay, I'll give you a Twitch chat example. Let's say that somebody asks me, oh, hey, what game are you playing? Now, first of all, I'm annoyed because all of my streams either have the game in the title or there's a game section that says what the person is playing. So I'm already kind of annoyed, but whatever. I understand that sometimes people don't just want the name necessarily. They want, like, a better explanation. They just don't know how to word it. So let's say, oh, I'm playing Tales of Grace's F. It's part of the Tales of series, just like Tales of Abyss and, Tales of Symphonia and all that stuff. And it's an action RPG. It's pretty good. And then, like 3 minutes later, they'll just ask it again. Now, I have the common sense enough to know that person probably either got an ad or maybe they asked and then something distracted them. But without knowing that for sure, it's just annoying. Like, it's like, you ever see the episode of Family Guy? Mom, mommy. It's like that, like, repeat, like, pay attention to me. So it's like, please stop. That's probably the number one thing. It's just like, if somebody says it absolutely annoys me when somebody asks, I answer, and then somebody asks again and they go, oh, sorry, I just wasn't paying attention. It's like, well, you paid enough attention to ask me the question the first fucking time. Why didn't you pay attention to the answer? Fucking idiot. That's how I feel inside. I don't always say that, but that's how I feel inside. So I didn't have a hashtag, but I saw that it said, hello, Mr. Happy, so I just stopped it. Hello, Mr. Happy, smiley face. I was wondering if you did some cleanup on your channel with older videos. I think there were older than 11-year-old videos. No, I had no 1.0 videos. Not a single 1.0 video on this channel. The closest you get is difference between like 1.0 and A Realm Reborn. I think that video is the only one I ever made that actively included like 1.0 stuff. I never made content on 1.0. I might have cleaned up old, like really shitty recordings of Final Fantasy XI stuff. I think I soloed like a Wings of the Goddess mission, and I think I deleted that one. I think I also deleted some old Kingdom Hearts no damage videos because I had like Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix from like 2007 or 2008. But no, I never cleaned up any 1.0 videos. And the few videos I cleaned up were from like 2008 or like 2009. I think the earliest video there now might be either late 2012 or early 2013, which would be around when I was uploading. There might be some like Minecraft videos in there, some really old League of Legends stuff. But yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think that's, and older than 11. I mean, yeah, the 2013, 2012 is when I really started uploading a lot more. But yeah, no, the only things that would have been cleaned up were like uploaded in like 2008 and 2009. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. How goes? Yeah, it's going good. It's good. Yeah, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. So I know it's been a cause of some recent controversy, but do you think the blacklist being account-wide is foreshadowing more, hopefully, better implemented account-wide features? I know they're working on friends list change. That would be nice to see that. I think we need to approach the first problem that's the controversy is tackling before we worry about what more opens up. Because I don't think we necessarily want more opening up if it's programmed like the blacklist was. I don't think it's as extensive as that. I literally just think they're trying to move to making features more account-wide. They need to improve the usability of all that stuff. And I think a from-the-ground-up system for it would be the ideal play. But I'm afraid enough after the first bit, so I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. What do you think Square Enix should do with leveling in 14 now that players have hit a level 100? Go to level 110. Honestly, I think you just level squish and then do 10 levels again. in all honesty. I don't think the merit job points would work. No, they wouldn't. And the master level system is only unique because of sub jobs. Would you like to see level 110? It literally doesn't matter. Let me put it very clearly. Nothing matters. Because no matter what, you will start the expansion at one power point, the same one that you were at the end of the previous expansion. And at the end of the MSQ, you will be at the same power point as everyone else, and that is the maximum without gear. They're not going to have a system where once you finish the MSQ, there's still more power to gain, because they are effectively creating a barrier for entry to endgame stuff where it will be expected that you do that before you actually participate in most other activities. People will lock you out of it if you're going into PF. Raid Finder's not really used, so it completely makes sense that that would be the case. And so, yeah, that's it. So it's irrelevant at the end of the day. Like, even if they wanted to make it so, like, let's say you gain skill points. Like, if the bar fills up, you gain 1 skill point, and you can pick a skill from a set of 10, right? They'll make it so that there's 10 skills. Or, okay, let me put this. They'll either make it so there's 10 skills and you get 10 skill points, but you could just choose what order you get them in, which I don't hate, because it lets you choose things that you may want to try earlier, which is, I think, healthy, especially if you give everyone the same options at the end. Or they'll like reduce. It'll be like 5 new things and they're 2 skill points each. And that's it. Like, that's all that would change. Like, they could even call them merits, like, if they really wanted to reuse the system, but it would not. I think it's a bad idea because of the reputation that the merit system has. Even if it's super easy now, I mean, just like the general expectation it creates amongst people who are familiar with it from Final Fantasy XI. So I think it's irrelevant. It's just, your power will go up throughout the story, and then when you do subsequent jobs, that same power increase will happen, and it won't really be any different. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. What do you think about more jumping puzzles? I love jump puzzles. I don't even do some of the jump puzzles, like the open world ones, but I love them being there. I just think it's so funny and fun. Like, I just want to do it once and then move on with my life. But, like, I love it. What do you think about the change in design of the outfits? Bro, I am colorblind and have I literally, like, I wear this, like, this or, like, some other workout shirt, like, 6 days out of the week. I'm the most useless person when it comes to fashion sense. I just put a frog hat on and call it a day most of the time. I have not paid even a remote bit of attention to the trend of change, like, the way that equipment looks. It hasn't even been a thought in the front, side, back, or even, like, the vicinity of my mind. So I have no opinion on it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Happy. Hi. Hope all is well. Thumbs up. Sorry for the block of text again. I feel like I need to make a clarification of my comment you answered with regards to other forms. Oh, this is a follow-up to last week's question. Not seeing the game needs some sort of tedious expansion, long grind. I'm saying it does. Like, here's the problem is that we don't get anything that is long-form content until way too late. And if they're going to do that, they should do that in the open world. If they're going to, like, do anything with the open world, it should be that. Infamous AP. Oh, no, I'm very familiar with the AP grinds of World of Warcraft. Doesn't necessarily need to be dynamic events with Square. I'm not gonna... Okay, world quests are a pretty simple system when you get down to it, but it does feel like their answer just to exploration zones. Yeah, I mean, that's really all they're gonna do. I think the one improvement that they can make above all else is to somehow make it so that exploration zones are not considered instance servers, and that they can somehow retool them to not require you to go through the duty finder. If they could achieve that, I think that is the ultimate end game for exploration zones. I don't think that's what they're gonna do, but that's what I would like to see happen, because I think that all of the answers to open world stuff comes in making what's already there consistently valuable, or improving how valuable, it is to do. I don't think it's like reinventing the wheel, that anything that needs to happen. I think that it's literally just making sure that the things out there have sustained value or patched in value that is, like, patch specific. So, yeah. Exploration zones not being an instant server, meaning that you could queue up into the duty finder while you're in them, would be a huge improvement, but I don't think we're going to see that, to be honest. Looks like we got 2 questions. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. We were almost at the end. I can see the final question under this one, and there's no hello here. We almost made it. I almost made it. Did you ever play any card games growing up or right now? No, I don't play any right now. Growing up, I was in the Pokemon League. I used to go down to my local Toys R Us and play in the Pokemon League every week. And then I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Up until the 6 Samurais first started releasing. The last deck I ever made for Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a Gladiator Beast, like a vanilla-ass Gladiator Beast deck. We only had one pack that had Gladiator Beast. There was no, like, follow-up support when I started playing. Synchros weren't even out yet. That's how long ago it was the last time I played. I follow some Yu-Gi-Oh! Content on YouTube nowadays, but I really have no interest in, like, playing Master Duel to do, like, GOAT format or LOB format or Edison. Like, those are the only ones I would want to play. I wouldn't even want to play Modern. Like, I have watched some modern games of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I genuinely feel like I would rather, like, dip my balls in molten gold and, like, render them unusable for the rest of my life than decide to play modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because when I watch one turn be like 8 to 10 minutes, it is one of the most agonizing things I have ever witnessed in my fucking life. I remember I was watching it on the front page of Twitch. I was watching, like, YCS or something, and I couldn't take it. I just straight up couldn't take it. It was so boring. And I was like, God, if I was in this game, I'd be bored and upset. Like, I remember playing Gladiator Beasts and feeling like an asshole. Because it was like, oh, you know, I do this, and when I attack, I can special summon this, and then I play this, which lets me cheat out this, and then I can sacrifice both, and it's like, and then I can use this fusion card to pull out this, and I had so much nonsense, like, constantly in my deck that I felt bad for them then, and it got way worse after that. So it's like, like I can't do it. Like, I just like opening packs. That's it. If I'm gonna be doing Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy card pack openings, I have no interest in playing Magic the Gathering, but I am very interested in opening those packs and seeing if I get anything rare. It's just real life gacha. That's fun for me. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. This is the last question. Hi, how are you? Thumbs up. I hope you're doing good too. Think screen extending a cease and desist to the stalking plugin would effectively deter such a thing? If one group does, like, they're going to have to cease and desist everyone who tries to do it. No, they need to fundamentally fix the problem so that it doesn't work more than anything else. Second, this is mostly a comment something said about Guild Wars 2. You can craft legendary armors now with open world content, so that killed the raid. Well, there you go. I was just saying, I don't know how it works nowadays. So yeah, I mean, that supports my art, my uneducated by modern Guild Wars 2 thing from earlier effectively is you just supported that line of thought. Obviously, I'm going to take it that that's not the whole picture, that I'm just getting another piece of it, but just furthers my point from earlier. The only reason ANET recently released a new raid is because they reused the asset for the story and some other content. Yeah, so it's literally like the difference between them. Like, there is a way to get it right between both, but it comes with a lot of sacrifices that I don't think are really worth it unless your game is built with that in mind from the get-go. I feel Guild Wars 2 is built with the open world and world quests being a core part of its game from the beginning. 14 wasn't. And I feel like those are the strengths that need to be played to, while occasionally releasing some things that do still work in those senses. And I think exploration zones are the closest you're going to get. But that is the last question for this week's episode of Mondays with Mrhappy. Like I said, I wanted this one to be a little bit shorter, and I think we achieved that. Be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if you have a question, ask it in the comment section of the video below for next week's episode. Be on the lookout for a State of the Realm this week. Be on the lookout for a patch note reading this week. Not a very long one, because 7.16 shouldn't really have too much. But be on the lookout for that, as well as a couple of other things that I'm going to go work on right now. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.